Okay, welcome everyone. As we welcome in Harrison Kletzel, Aaron Swade, Yitzi Muller, Irving Fishbaum, Barish Gesseman, Dr. Guy, Baruch Ian, Nachman, Saba, Shalom Fogel, Moshe Lehman, Rabbi Kranz, Ilya Shutman, Abba Steinhauser, and here we have in the shul Gedalia Engel and Reb Kramer, Reb Jackman, and Reb Goldstein. We are learning, as always, this Masechta sponsored by A.B. Spry, with the tefillah that all those that are waiting to have their children in yeshiva should have it accomplished easily, sweetly, without heartache and aggravation. We are holding on Daf Lamed Vav Amud Aleph, and we are holding by the two dots, so a little bit ahead, 10 lines from the top of Daf Lamed Vav Amud Aleph, and we continue to learn feverishly for Chaver Adaf Aaron Swade, Aaron Ben Sarah, that they should be able to do what they need to do and get him home healthy and well. We welcome in Avram Schenkman, who just got in mamish under the wire, on the nick of time. As Avram, we're on Daf Lamed Vav, 10 lines from the top. Va'edem chayis min alaget, the witnesses.
Yeah. What happened? What did I do?
Va'edem chayis min alaget, and witnesses sign on the get, because of the benefit of the world. So at first glance that sounds, what are you talking about? They have to sign because it says in the pasuk, "V'kasav b'sefer v'chasam b'nei tikkun ha'olam d'oraiso." D'chsev v'kasav b'sefer, it's written in the sefer v'chasam, and it's sealed. Amar Rabba loy tzricha l'Rebbe Lazar. It's going according to Rebbe Lazar, the Amar, who says. By the way, the pasuk that's quoted over here of the Kasav B'Sefer V'Chasam is not talking about get, because then Rabbi Lazar wouldn't be able to argue and say that it's Eidei Masira, right? By get it says V'Kasav Lo Sefer Krisis. This pasuk that the Gemara quotes, V'Kasav B'Sefer V'Chasam, is a sefer in Yirmiyah. It's a pasuk in Yirmiyah, and it's talking about Sodas B'Kesef Yiknu, as you see in the side of the Gemara. But what the Gemara was asking is, well, normal documents have to be signed in order to be legal, so then that's biblical. So the Gemara says, Amar Rabba lo tzricha l'Rebbe Lazar. It's going according to Rebbe Lazar, Damar de Masira Kar say that the critical feature of the kasav in the Torah by get is the body of the text of the get, the lashon of divorce. The witnesses are the ones that witness the delivery, and therefore there doesn't have to be anybody signed on the get, but rather Tekina Rabbanan Eidei Chasima, the Rabbanan enacted witnesses to sign the get, Mipnei Tikkun Ha'olam, for the benefit of the world. Why? The Zimnan the Maisi Sadeh, because sometimes, let's say the husband will come and say it was a forgery, and the witnesses that witnessed the delivery, maybe they died. Inami Zimnan Dozli Sayam, or maybe they're in Australia, and therefore we have that them or others sign on the get. And that way, even if they died, we could get people to verify their signatures. We could get people to make a comparative in the archives of the court to the signatures, and that way to uphold the get. Yeah.
So the Gemara in the Havam is thinking, like at this point, that if somebody comes with a document that's written, we assume it's true, because why not assume it's true? I mean, don't the Adam give it some kind of validity that it didn't have otherwise? You say that this guy...
Are you asking according to Rabbi Lazar?
Yeah, I'm saying...
According to Rabbi Lazar, it's enough that the man hands the get to the wife. So obviously it's coming from him.
What about in other cases? We're not concerned...
We're only talking about get now. We're not talking about deeds of sale. And that the pasuk says, v'chasmu. Now, says the Gemara, Rabbi Yosef Amar, Rabbi Yosef says, listen, this could be going even according to Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yosef Amar, afilu teimel Rabbi Meir. It used to be, Rabbi Meir says that they have to sign the get. But it's enough for them to sign, Anu, Ani, Pliny, Eid. Doesn't have to say who he is. The fact is that somebody signed the get. That's enough. But afilu teimel Rabbi Meir, hiskinu, they enacted she'ehei edim mafrishin shmoisein begittin. They clarified their names in the get and said Nachman ben Shmuel 8. Why? Mibnei tikkun ha'olam. Because of the benefit of the world. Because if they just wrote Ani Pliny Aid, and then the husband contests, so they're not, how are they going to figure out? They're going to have to find in the archives of the court if they could see that same exact handwriting. It's very hard to confirm it. If it has the name, then you could look for the person's name. If you can't find the person, then you could look for the person's signatures. Kedetanya b'rishayna ha'yakaisim, initially they wrote, Ani ploini chasamti eid. I so-and-so, and he doesn't write his name. And then if the husband contests it, im ksav yoda yoitzim amakam acher, if they could do a comparative analogy on a document that has the same signature with an ashrata, with a certification, then it's kosher. V'imlav puzzle. Now that it has a name, so then we could look for the Eidim, and if we can't find the Eidim, we could look for, it's easier to look for other documents that they signed. Amar Rabbi Gamliel, Takana Gedola Hiskinu, it was a great enactment that they enacted Shiyam Meforshin Shmoiseyim Begittin, to write their name in the get, as we explained, for the benefit of the world. Says Gemara, they can't sign with a simon, with an emblem. V'arav tzayir kavra. Rav used to sign with a fish. Rabbi Chanina tzayir charusa, with a palm branch. Rav Chisda used a samach from his name. Rabbi Oishia ayin. Rabbi Baravuna tzayir makusa, put the mast or the sail of a ship. Now here again we'd have the same problem. How do we know which samach? There are a lot of people with the name samach, right? There's a lot of people with the name ayin. There's Akivas, there's a lot of people with the name ayin, especially Rav Hoshia was in the middle of his name. Says Gemara, Shani Rabbanim de Bekia Simanayu. That's different because everybody knew if it was a fish, it was Rav. And everybody knew that if it was a mast, that it was Rav Huna, that was Rabbi Bar Huna. Says Gemara, but how did they do it before it was well known? B'may yafkinu. In what way? Meikara b'may yafkinu. Initially, how did they do it? Initially, it wasn't well known. Says Gemara, you're right. B'diske. Initially, they only did it on social letters, on correspondences. They didn't do it on legal matters. Once it became known, then they would put it even on a get, because by then it would become known. Now, as we're just getting along over here, I want to welcome in Shimon Klein has joined us, Moshe Lehman, Richard Rosenzweig, Ilya Shutman, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, Abe Arbach, amongst others. It's good to have everybody here with us. Although we're missing a lot of people, Mark Frankel isn't here yet, Marshall Castle isn't here yet, that's why it's so quiet over here. Anyway, good to have everybody. Yeah, Eddie Chazan is back in Eretz Yisrael for the wedding of his daughter. So we wish him a mazel tov. A shout out to him if he's listening to this on recording or on video. I think that's Menachem Yemansky. We don't have Shimon Dira with us over here. We're missing a lot of people. But anyway, good to have everybody here. As we are holding by the two dots, Hillel Hiskein Pruzbel. Hillel enacted a Pruzbel. Tanan Hossam, Pruzbel Eina Mishame. In the event that Shimon owes me $100,000, and Shvius would come and release the loan. So Hillel enacted that I could make a Pruzbel so that Shvius doesn't release the loan. This is one of the matters Shehiskin Hillel Azaken. Why? Because if especially if it's in the 6th year or the 5th year of Shemitah, I'd be afraid to give a loan because Shemitah will come and I'll lose my $100,000. And it's not good because the Torah says a person should give loans. And then they'll transgress that which is written in the Torah. Be careful, lest there be something cruel in your heart and not give a loan. It's very interesting because according to the Gemara now, we usually assume that the purpose of the Pruzbel is to ensure that people will get loans. Here, it's saying that the purpose of the Pruzbel is that the lender should not be a sinner and not give the loan. So, Amad V'hiskin Pruzbel. He went ahead and he enacted a Pruzbel. B'zeu Gufay Shel Pruzbel, and this is the text of the Pruzbel. Mosrani Lochem Ploini. I hand over to you, Ploni, so-and-so, Dayanim Shebamakim Ploini, judges in Shnipashak. Shekol chayv sheyeshli etzel pliny. All of the debts that Shimon owes me, she'egvenu kol zman she'ertza. I could collect it whenever I want. She'egvenu kol zman she'ertza. And the mechanics of the Pruzbel, and here he is, Mark Frankel. I guess, Mark, you're in a different time zone. Mark, we are holding 9 lines from the bottom of Lamed Vav Amud Aleph. I would like to tell you that you didn't miss anything, but you missed a lot. And I'd like to tell you that you shouldn't feel bad, but you should feel very bad. Anyway, good to see you, Mark.
I'll stay late after class, Rabbi.
Yeah, okay. And now, do you have maybe a dunce cap? No, you don't have that. Anyway, it's really good to see you. I don't want you to ever think that you shouldn't come in the middle. You could come in for the last 5 minutes, and I'm very happy to see you come in I'm very happy to see anybody come in for the last 5 minutes. You know what Rabbi said? You know what the Chavetz Chaim said? The Chavetz Chaim said that he checked the second hand of his watch, and he calculated that you could say 200 words in a minute. And he says, the Vilna Gaon says that every word of Torah is a separate mitzvah saseh. So in 5 minutes, a person could do 1,000 mitzvahs. So coming in for the last 5 minutes of the shir is 1,000 mitzvahs. The Chavetz Chaim would say, we won't eat 1,000 afikoimens. And we won't fast 1,000 Yom Kippurs. But in 5 minutes, we could get 1,000 mitzvahs, and those mitzvahs are the mitzvah that's keneged kulam, that's equal to everyone. Okay, 1 second. Yehuda from Har Nof has just joined us. He's coming in about the distance of Mark, so we understand. And also it's about the same time for Yehuda and Har Nof. What is it now? 4:15? Yes.
Is the Gemara saying that Hashem says if anybody wants to borrow money from you, a poor person wants to borrow money from you 3 months before Shemitah, you should give him the loan even though there's a significant chance he's going to default on the loan and then you're not getting your money back.
Well, obviously, it's talking about a person that has discretionary funds for this.
But, okay, discretionary funds is fine and well, but if you lose it, if it's a nice amount of money, the sort of Torah is saying, don't worry about it. Hashem says, I'll take care
Right.
of it.
Well, again, it has to be discretionary money. So he might give it as tzedakah, or he might give it as a loan. So he could view it as a tzedakah. I saw that Reb Ruvain in the Sefer on Pirkei Avos quotes an absolutely amazing psak of his father, Reb Moshe. It's so emotionally charged that I didn't talk about it in an open forum in Pirkei Avos, but he said that his father held that the din of that a person should not give more than a fifth. The pasuk says, the Gemara says, al yavazves yosem mechamesh, is only someone who doesn't have oodles of money. But a billionaire who has enough money for 1,000 lifetimes, Rav Moshe held that he was mechuyev to give much more than a fifth. It's really a demanding thing. I seem to remember something that really frightened me. There was an incident where a tremendous philanthropist was killed in a car accident. And they asked Rav Steinman, how could it be? Tzedakah tatzal mamavas. How could it be? He was such a big philanthropist. And Rav Steinman commented, I believe, this is, a while ago that I saw it, but I believe that it made a big roshim on me, that Rav Steinman commented, do we know that he gave Meiser? In other words, if a person is a billionaire, if he supported 7 yeshivas and 10 koilulim and gave $60 million, he didn't give Meiser. Which is a scary idea. But anyway, Mark says that's not his problem. It's not his problem. Mark, maybe it should become your problem. It's Hashem. It's not easy to be a wealthy person. Not easy to be a wealthy person. That.
All I know is I'm showing up early tomorrow. That's all.
Yeah, oh, good. Then it was kedai, the whole thing. But I will tell you that if you remember, I told you that in my shir in Borough Park, and this was in front of at least 100 people. Somebody came in one night. He was a regular. And, before the shir, I would announce all the chaylim. And after I finished, he said, Rabbi, could we learn from me too? So I said, what do you mean? He said, I bought a lot of the Powerball lottery. Let's learn that I win the Powerball. The Powerball then was $900 million. So I looked at him and I said to him, are you sure it would be good for you to win $900 million? So he said 100%. He looked at me shocked. He said 100%. So I said to him, that Chazal tell us that the Nisayan of Oisher is bigger than the Nisayan of Aniyas. The Nisayan of wealth is bigger than the Nisayan of poverty. And Ani Choshev Kameis. So that means that the Nisayan of Ashiris is more than Misa. So basically, I didn't convince him. He said, hit me with it. Hit me with it. He was up to the challenge. Lamai says he didn't win. I would have heard about it. The next night he came to the daf. If he won, I don't know if he would have came to the daf the next night. He would have bought himself a daf, But anyway.
How many people are nice to others because they think, I may need the guy someday. If you're wealthy like that,
Well, it's more than that. How many people turn to the Rabbeinu Shalom because they think they need him? That's the problem. Vayishman Yeshurun Vayivat. The problem, it says that a person that has such wealth, he thinks he's invincible until he gets sick, which is a scary thing. Money can't buy a solution to that. Anyway, says the Gemara Vaita. Here the Gemara now deals with a problem with a prosbul. If I didn't write a prosbul, remember, we're not letting Shimon off the hook just because Mark came in. Shimon owes me $100,000, right? So after Shemitah, he doesn't owe it anymore. And just because I write a prosbul, they're going to make him pay me $100,000? Says Gemara, Mi kamidei de midoraisa mishamta shvius. Is there such a thing that biblically shvius released alone? V'hiskin Hillel delay mishamta, and Hillel could be misakin that it shouldn't release the debt. Amar Avaya, so Avaya says, it's only b'shvius b'zman hazeh. So Shemitah Bisman Hazeh is only the Rabbanan. If it's only the Rabbanan, then Heim Amru v'Heim Amru. They said that there's Shemitah, but they said that you could use the device of the prosbul. Why is it only the Rabbanan Bisman Hazeh? As we welcome in Chaim Lerner. Why isn't it only the Rabbanan? Says, and Shlomo Willem is here. Shlomo, that's 2 days in a row. It's really great to have you. Geschmack. One of these days you're going to surprise me and even come into the shul. He was here for Mincha, it's always a pleasure to have you around. So anyway, the Rebbe, and it's going according to Rebbe, that Shemitah Bisman Hazeh, that relinquishing the debt is only the Rabbanan. Why? The Tanya Rebbe Aimer v'zeh devar hashmita shmoit. This is the matter of Shemitah release. Now it says Shemitah twice. So one is the release of the land, not working the land, and one is the release of debts. B'shtei Shemitas hakas medaber, achas Shemitas karka, v'achas Shemitas ksafim. One is the releasing of the work of the land, and one is the releasing of the debts. B'zman shata mishamet karka, when there's, you have to leave the land fallow, then atam mishamet ksafim. Bisman she'iatam mishamet karka, when you don't have to leave the land fallow midoraisa because shebat l'kedushas ha'aretz, Rashi says, i'atam mishamet ksafim. You don't have the release of debts, and therefore it's only the Rabbanan. V'tikinu the Rabbanan the tishmat zeichel l'shviyas. And the Rabbanan were masakin that still it should release zeichel l'shviyas. However, Ra Hillel shenimnu ha'amal lahalva zeh. The Hill saw that people were refraining from giving loans. Amad v'hiskim prosbul. So now the Gemara asks a different question. So that means biblically Shimon has to pay me. Because biblically today, Shvius doesn't relinquish the debt. So biblically, Shimon has to pay me $100,000. So how could the Rabbanan come and say that Zeichel Shemitah, he doesn't have to pay me? That biblically, Shvius doesn't release the debt. But Tikinu Rabbanan de Tishman, and the Rabbanan said that Shimon is off the hook. Amar Abaye, so Abaye says, yeah, the Rabbanan could do that. Sheva al Tasahu. They could do it with a Sheva al Tasahu. We know that the Rabbanan could be Oiker or Doraisa by being passive. So by Shimon not paying me, that's passive. The same thing, that's why they could say that on Rosh Hashanah, when it falls out on Shabbos, you don't blow shofar. Because of Xavier, you might come to carry it. But how could there be Oiker Doraisa to blow the shofar? The answer is Sheva al Tasa, by being passive. Don't blow. Don't chuck a lulav and esrik. Rava says, no, there's a different device over here. Bezdin has the wherewithal to shift around money. You're right. You're right. Shimon owes me $100,000. Bezdin could say that Zeichel Shvius, he doesn't. It's my money. Bezdin has the right to liquidate my money. Hefker Bezdin Hefker. Ravam Hefker Bezdin Hoya Hefker. How do we know this? Damram Yitzchak B'nayin Shefker Bezdin Hoya Hefker. How do we know that which is renounced by Bezdin is Hefker? So this is at a time, boy could we use this today. At the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, many Yidden took Goyish wives. And Nehemiah, from the Persian king, had sweeping powers. And he was able, with an iron fist, to say, if you don't give up your Goyish wives, all your property will be hefker, and you'll be excommunicated from the Kohal. Today we don't have that power. I saw a very interesting article today that was written by Rav Ephraim Goldberg from Boca, one of the bright and dynamic Rabbonim for today's Jew. And he wrote a very interesting article about whether a person should use their will as an incentive that their children should not intermarry, and put in a codicil in the will that if they intermarry, they won't get any Yerusha. It's a very interesting. He doesn't come out with really a definitive, but it's just an interesting thing, underscoring the challenges of our day. And he did say that a lot of times doing stuff like that ensures that they won't come back or they won't convert. He quotes a tshuva from Rav Moshe, but he says that tshuva was written in 1965. It's questionable if Rav Moshe would have said that with the climate of today. But anyway, so this was the power of Nehemiah, of Ezra, where he said, "V'chol asher lo yavoi l'shloishes hayamim," whoever doesn't appear 3 days, in 3 days, ka'atzas hasorim v'azakenim, according to the enactment of the nobles and the elders, yacharam kol rechushay, all of his property should be liquidated. V'hu yibadol mikahal ha'geilah, he'll be separated from the congregation of the geilah. So you see, Bezdin has sweeping powers. Rabbi Elazar Amar Mihacha says when Yeshua was manchel the land, Eila ha'nechalois asher nachalu Elazar HaKohen v'Yeshua ben Nun v'Rashi Avos. These are the when Yeshua gave out the territories of Eretz Yisrael to the different Shvatim, so it lists Elazar HaKohen, Yeshua ben Nun, and the heads of the tribes. So the question is, what is the heads of the tribes doing over here? Why does it mention the heads of the leaders next to the heads of the tribes, next to fathers? Just like fathers have discretionary power to decide their Yerusha in any way they want during their lifetime, Af Roshim, so also the leaders, they have sweeping powers. Now, here the Gemara asks, we know we have a klal that once a Bezdin enacts something for all time, it cannot be canceled unless another Bezdin of the same wisdom and number comes along. So Ibayalahu. Ki hiskin Hillel prusbel l'dorei hu d'taket. Did Hillel make prusbel for his generation and any other generation where people wouldn't give loans because of Shemitah? But he didn't make it for all time. So every generation has to decide if they have the worry like his generation. Or did he make it forever? Says Gemara, my nafkamina, the vitule, to cancel it. He made it for his generation or any other generation where the rabbis felt there was a need. Then if they feel that in their time there's enough wealthy people they're going to give loans and it's not a problem, so they could be mavatal it. But if they made it for all time, so then then one bezdin cannot be mavatal another bezdin unless it's greater b'chachma or b'minyan, with wisdom and number. Now that's almost impossible, because since we hold niskatnu adairis, what subsequent bezdin is going to be greater in wisdom than Hillel's bezdin? Tajma, the Amar Shmuel, loy kasvinan prusbel, you cannot write a prusbel, dina de surah, unless you're in the bezdin of surah of Rav, or iba dina de narda, or if you're in the bezdin, my bezdin in narda. But otherwise, a prusbel shouldn't be written. But v'isal kedaitik l'dori alma nami talking. But if they made it for Hillel made it for all generations, so then b'shar beidina nami lichtavu, then it should be able to be written in other bezdins too. So the Gemara says no, maybe Hillel was masakin a prusbel only to be written for a bezdin like his power. Dilma ki tikin Hillel l'dori alma only kigan beidina didei, like his bezdin, which was a very powerful bezdin, ukid Ravami v'Ravasi, dalime lafku mamayna. Aval kuli amaloi, not for everyone, and therefore Shmuel said only the bezdin in Surah of Rav and bezdin in Narda has powers like Hillel's bezdin. Tashma, Dama Shmuel ha pruzbala ulbana de dainehu. A pruzbala is like the chutzpah of the dayanim, the brazenness of the dayanim, that they could make a vehicle that Shvias should not release a debt when the Torah says it should be released. I ayashir chayil, if I would be strong enough after line. So the Gemara says, but if you hold that Hillel was misakin it for all time, after line vayin bezdin yochel avate divrei bezdin chaveri alim ken gadol amen b'chachma b'minyan. Says Gemara, that's what he meant. Hachi kamer ima yashir chayil yoyisem Hillel. If I would have the strength more than Hillel, then after line. Rav Nachman says, if I would have the power akaimena, I would uphold it. So the Gemara said, what do you mean uphold it? The principle is upheld automatically. We said even if he didn't make it for all time, but he made it for any generation that has the need. Akaimena hamakayim v'kai. Says the Gemara an interesting thing. What Rav Nachman went was, if I had the strength, I would make it that Shemitah should not be Meshamed, even without writing the prusbel. I would make it an automatic. Hachikama, Ema Bei Milsa, I would institute something, the Afal Gav the Loikosav, even if a person doesn't write the prusbel, Kakasav Dami. So now the Gemara gives us a little bit of an etymological discussion, which we're going to see is a little bit linked to the Chumash here tonight. By the way, tonight, I was not feeling so well today, but I really pushed myself to write the shir. I did have to sleep today for 3 hours, and I told my wife, no matter what, I have to get up at 6 so I could finish writing the shir. I ended up getting up at 6:30, and I finished writing the shir from 6:30 to 8. I finished 10 minutes before coming down here to Mincha. So hopefully with the Mesiras Nefesh that I put into the shir, it should be a very good one. Ibaylu. Hai Ulbana, when it said that Shmuel said that he felt Pruzbul was a chutzpah of the Dayanim. What does Ulbana mean? Does it mean a brazenness, lishna de chutzpah, or lishna de nechusu? Or maybe it means that the Pruzbul was for the convenience of the Dayanim. Because what the Dayanim wanted to avoid is if Shemitah would be meshamet the debts, then the Bezdin would be flooded in the months before Shemitah trying to collect debts. And it would make it very hard for the Bezdin. Says the Gemara, Tajma, the Amar Ula Aluva Kala, brazen is the bride, Shezinsa Bekerev Kupasa. That is Mezana even while she's by the bridal chamber. Now, of course, it's very ugly if a bride commits adultery while she's, doing Sheva Brachas. But this is a reference to the fact that we were still at Sinai and we sinned with the Egel Azav. So we were by the bridal chamber with the Rabbeinu Shalom and we committed adultery. We worshipped the calf. Amar Rav Mori Brei de Bashmuel, Rav Mori, the son of Bashmuel, said, Mikra, Ad Melech b'Mesibai, while the king is at the banquet, the Rabbeinu Shalom was by Har Sinai, near Dinasan Reichai, our perfume gave out its fragrance. In other words, we stopped smelling well because of the sin. Amar Rava says, even so, Adayin Chavivusu Gabon. Hashem still loves us because it doesn't say that we smelled rotten. The Chsiv Nosan, it just says we lost our good smell. The like Chsiv Esriach, it doesn't say that we were rotten. Now here we have one of the more famous Gemaras in all of Shas. What does a person do when they are insulted? What does a person do? So Tan Rabbanan, Hanelovin, one who is insulted, ve'enan a'olvin, and they don't insult back. Shaimim cherpasin, they hear their disgrace, ve'ein meshivim, they don't respond. Osin me'ava, they serve Hashem out of love, usmeichem b'yisurim, they rejoice in suffering. Alein akosavayim, referring to them, does the pasuk say, v'oavav, those that love him, kitzeitz hashemesh b'gvurasai. It's like the sun going out in its might. So now let me tell you about this very, very, very important pasuk. The Gemara. Someone is insulted. Somebody disgraces a person. How do they have the strength not to respond? So the Gemara says it's only possible if a person is not fueled by accolades. If a person is fueled by accolades, that's what gets him to do things, because people say nice things about him. Then when he's insulted, it takes away his steam, and he needs to respond. But if a person is fueled by Ava, by loving Hashem, then those opinions don't really mean anything to him, because that's not what's fueling him. And therefore, that's how he's able not to respond. By the way, I'm not saying that anything is good. Person that insults, if he insults Barabim, he loses his chelik in Olam Haba if he does it habitually. And hurting people, I know, as Devarim, is a terrible thing. We're not talking about to justify any of this behavior. The Gemara then says, but how could you deal with the insult? There's the pain. On that, the Gemara says, "Usmeichem b'yisurim." The person is happy to let this be a kapara. Nothing else. Now, what is he compared to if he has this attitude? Remember, the moon said to the sun, there can't be two kings in the sky. And what did the sun do? He was quiet. That's what we're talking about, not reacting. Hanelov and vein anon, that's a gvura. V'oyav of kitzeis hashemesh b'gvurasai. Rabbi said we did already the Mishnah Yomis because there's a Chumash here. So we invite you all to join us now for the Chumash here. I hope that it's going to be a good one.